Hello and welcome to Anygame's Talent Talk, a show where I sit down and talk to various people from the anime and video games industry to learn a bit more about them, the projects they've been involved with, and the characters they've brought to life. I'm your host Joel, and today I'm joined by another very special guest, known for her work in Sword Art Online Alternative, Little Witch Academia, and playing the lead in Beyblade Burst Turbo. I'm joined by Laura Stahl. How you going, Laura?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all. Uh, so you've been working in the anime industry for a little bit now. Can you
Just a
talk
little
about
bit.
just a little
hmm
bit? Can you talk a bit about how you got started as a voice actor and what kind of keeps you passionate about being a voice actor in the anime roles?
Oh gosh. I got started basically by accident. Uh, a lot of people I've heard they say the same thing. Got started by accident. I was not aiming for it. I have a really wonderful friend that I've known for over a decade now, and he started working in anime before I did. But we were both actors pursuing and stage and film and other things like that. And then he started doing pretty well in voiceover. And he said, you think you would do well. You would like this. So why don't you give it a shot? Um, and the friend that I'm talking about, you might have heard of him. His name is Kyle McCarley.
The
Uh,
name rings a bell, yeah.
yeah, he's in a lot of different animes. He is the lead in Mob Psycho 100 and
hmm Yep.
Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, and he's in a bunch of other stuff. Be the Beginning, all kinds of things. But I knew him before all of those things, and then when he got started, right around when he booked Durarara, that was one of his first shows. He was like, "This is really great, and I think you would enjoy it. So why don't you give it a shot?" And I said, "Oh well, maybe." And he introduced me to the casting director over at Bang Zoom Studios via email, and she invited me to come in and observe some of the sessions and see what they're like, because I'd never, even considered it or trained in voiceover or what have you. I went to school for musical theater, and I got to go and sit in on a session for Hunter x Hunter.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, well, this looks like fun. I I could try this. So I started taking classes, and I actually became really good friends with uh, Erica Mendez and Lucian Dodge, who are also really wonderful anime voice actors and JRPGs and other things like that.
hmm
And they were currently working on Little Witch Academia. And since we happened to be friends, and we started actually working to not really working together, but we were training together. We would get together at their house like once a week or something, and we would sit and work on copy and work on our acting and work on our auditioning skills. And since they were working on a Little Witch, they decided to be very sweet and generous. And Laura Post was there as well, and they all sent me my first anime audition, which was for which I booked. So that was my first role, was something that I worked on with Lucian and Erica and Laura Post as Wangari in Little Witch Academia. And it all kind of snowballed from there, just like little bits here and there, and then it started picking up volume as the years went on. I think I've been working 2 years. 2 years now. I've been trying to do yes. So,
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
That
So
that was
it was.
really nice of them to just let you sit in and see if it was for you or not.
Oh yeah, that was very sweet. And I mean that's the funny thing about really pursuing just about anything is a lot of people don't think to just go ahead and ask for the opportunity. Not necessarily ask for, like, oh, walking into a casting director's office and say, "Hey, you should give me a shot." That's a little difficult.
Yeah.
But saying, "I'm interested in this industry. I'd like to learn more about it." You'd be surprised how many people are receptive to that and say, "Oh yeah, of course, you're welcome to learn about it and see if you like it or try to pursue." And that's really how you build your network, is to be friendly and personable and honest and hardworking. When people see that, they get excited, and it makes them want to work with you too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that leads into my next question is what
hmm
what challenges are involved with voice acting that people from the outside might not realize?
Ooh. Uh, there's a lot of rejection.
Oh,
there's
okay.
a there's a lot of no's, and they're very well meaning. There's never and there's I mean, as long as you're a personable person, and you're not mean or negative. It's as long as you're friendly. Of course, people would love to work with you. There are people that want to give people a shot, especially like Mami Okada over at Bang Zoom. She loves giving new opportunities to new actors, but it's very difficult sometimes to be able to do so, specifically because of the specifics of the project, or they're actors that maybe the clients might not be familiar with, and if they don't have a resume which they can lean back on, then it's difficult to say, hey, you should give this person a shot. You don't know them from Adam. But or there's, if you have a similar read or timbre or vocal tone to somebody that they have worked with several times in the past, then it's easier for a client or a production house to say, I'm going to work with someone I've worked with before because I know that they can deliver, rather than somebody who's brand new and they may or may not be ready for the challenge. So definitely there's lots and lots of rejection, and absolutely having patience is one of my downfalls. That's an issue for me for sure. It's always difficult. Like, a lot of people, or especially myself, really, one of the pitfalls that I definitely fell into, especially when I was just starting, was thinking, if I just reach this goal, I'll be satisfied. It was, when you're like, oh, I'm trying so hard to get to this specific place or the specific plateau, or reach this goal, and you're like, well, if I just get one role in anime to get started, I'll know I've started and I'll feel better. And then you get your first role, and it goes by like that, and you're like, ugh, but
I want more.
Now I want more. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, now I want to do it again, or oh, I want to try something else. I want to try something different. I want something that's meatier. I want something that's and especially when you're just starting, it's very often you'll get one role, and it might take an afternoon to record, and you finished it, and then you might not receive another role or have another opportunity that looks like that for months or even a year. I have a very dear friend who's been working as a voice actor for several years, like 5 or 6 years, and they had their first opportunity very early on when they just started pursuing, and then they didn't really have another breakthrough for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, but now this person
Patient.
and this person that I'm speaking about, they're booking again. They're booking now, and they're booking more frequently. Thank goodness, because they deserve it. They're incredibly talented. But it's just that perseverance. You can't let radio silence deter you.
Of course.
It's really it's difficult when you feel like you're kind of yelling out into the void and thinking that you're not going to see any returns, when in fact it's just your opportunity hasn't come up yet. I know several people who auditioned for one project or another, did not book that role that they auditioned for, and then several projects down the line were informed that they'd been booked in something else, and it was based off of the audition that they did for Project X that they did, months earlier.
And didn't get.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Or maybe you'll get booked on something because a casting director or a director or somebody in the industry saw a performance that you had done in a previous project or another anime or another video game or something. So work will beget work, and sometimes that takes years, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that kind of also leads into the following question about the audition process, where I've noticed not just yourself, but other anime voice actors as well, especially with the Netflix produced anime series, a lot of the similar actors are all involved in some way or another with each of those series. So I was going to ask, do you have to go and audition for each one of those, or is it a case where the casting director has worked with you before or is familiar with the types of works of those actors and just recasts them like almost automatically?
That's very much a case by case basis. It depends on the project, it depends on the client, how particular they're feeling, how sensitive they have to be to the original material, and what have you. So there are some projects, and it also depends on the uh, budget of the project as well.
Yeah, of course.
So if they have a little bit more wiggle room within their budget, they can spend a lot more time being precious with each character and however many, and so they can, they'll do their initial casting process and then they'll have a callback process or what have you, especially if it's a really high profile title. They'll be really careful to select exactly who they believe is going to be able to carry whatever that title happens to be. And then there are other projects that say they're long running, or they're for whatever reason that I could not know. They've moved from one studio to another, and there are other characters that carry over from the previous incarnation of the show. Like say Beyblade, it moved from Canada to Los Angeles, and I know specifically the clients wanted to be as faithful to the original actors as possible. Like, it was, unfortunately, because it moved, a lot of the actors could not retain the roles that they had, but they want to stay as true to the performances and the spirits of the characters as they could. So there was a very long vetting process, I know, for that in particular, because they wanted to respect it, the project itself and the property itself. They wanted to be really, mindful of that. And then say there are other shows or something that might have a very short timeline as to when it can be done. Like, they'll receive a project and say, all right, we have from here to this date, we need to make sure it's out. So you don't have a lot of time to do a full long casting process. So that's when a casting director might reach into their Rolodex and be like, all right, who do I know that can come over and pull out a really solid performance without a lot of prep time? Who do I know who plays characters that are similar to this, and they always knock them out of the park? And and they'll call their faithfuls that they know can do it at this time, because they don't have weeks and weeks to search.
Yeah, times.
So it absolutely, So it just depends on which project it is, what their time frame is, how much money they've got, all those things. Show business.
The business behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, it's hectic for sure. And then also it depends on how local the actors are, because there's a lot of really wonderful talent that works primarily in Texas, and there's a lot of talent that works in Canada, and then there's a lot that work in Los Angeles. And there are a few actors that I know who will work in a couple of those places. Like, there are a few actors I know who have worked in Dallas and LA because they're local to both studios, because they've got a place to land in each state or what have you. But for the most part, a lot of people will just kind of stick to their area because they're close by. So
Makes sense.
a lot of it just depends.
I wouldn't want to travel hours for work every day either.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Sometimes you'll get lucky, and they'll reach out to a specific actor and say, okay, we would like you for this thing, and they'll do a remote session or something, or maybe they'll have that actor come out and they're booking it specifically, like, all right, we'll have you here for 3 days, we'll knock it out, and then we can send you back home. And what have you. But it's it depends on the project and the relationship between the client and the actor and the production house.
So you kind of touched before on wanting to do different kinds of roles, or not get stuck into a single type of role and things like that. If your IMDb profile is accurate, I noticed you were in a couple of live action shorts or live action projects earlier on in your career. So can you talk a bit about the flexibility that comes with being a voice actor, especially you could even include we can talk about your character in Beyblades. So like if you were in live action, you would never be able to be cast as a young boy, obviously.
That's very true.
So, yeah. I've heard a couple of other voice actors in the show as well talk about loving the flexibility and the roles that they can play by being a voice actor. Is that also something that you love about the job as well? Correct, yeah.
It's awesome. I really enjoy it because number one, you know, I get to play things that normally I would absolutely not get to play. You know, creatures and little boys and whose hair explodes when they get angry and being able to do things that I wouldn't normally be able to do. Like Eiger is very good at parkour, whereas I might die. I might not survive that. But, you know, there's a lot of this really interesting flexibility there, just like physics wise and role wise and what have you. And the volume of roles that you can play in the amount of time exponentially grows, because when working on set, you might be on set doing a set of scenes for up to, you know, 14 hours for one day, or you might be on a feature film and you'll be working on it for 2 weeks up to or 3 months or what have you. I mean, think about the Lord of the Rings films years ago. They were working on those things for years.
Yeah, they filmed them all back to back, and those
yeah,
there for a long time.
They were there for a long time. The Game of Thrones crew, they're there for a very long time. They're shooting for several months out of the year, and it kind of, I mean, yes, those actors they'll have to work their schedules, and they'll work on other projects in tandem, but it becomes very hectic, and it's not like you can work on several projects in one day. Whereas if you're a voice actor, you can be working on 8 or 10 different projects in 3 days. or more, depending on how. Oh yes, it can keep you very, very busy. You know, if you're doing 7 or 8 or 9 hours of work in one day as a voice actor, you're working on several different properties in just one day. And you know, you can start the morning as a creature and end the day as a princess, and it's insane. You know, if you're lucky enough to be booking at that volume, because once again, that's not every actor is doing that.
No,
but
of course.
when it's nice work if you can get it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Helps pay the bills a bit.
Yes, it does. Beyblade is my best friend right now.
Oh yeah. And that seems like it's going to be a kind of long-running series. So what's it like being that's when you booked the role for that and you got the lead, like it must feel pretty good to have frequent work.
Oh, I was flabbergasted. I was just blown away. It was really lovely because Mommy, the casting director, she told me personally. She pulled me aside and she's like, "I just wanted to let you know that you booked this." And I was like, "What?" Because it was absolutely the largest thing that I had booked to date at that time, and I was just, I couldn't believe her at all. I was like, "Are you sure? I don't. Why?
Why?
What do you mean?" No, it was fantastic. I was just over the moon for days, for weeks. But it is really interesting. It's definitely work. It's a work. Playing Eiger is a workout for sure. He is fiery and he is full of passion and he is full of energy. I take off my shoes in the booth and stand in in bare feet. This is very funny, but and I'm often at almost every line I'm like punching at the air or kicking or just very, very tense, and there's a lot of dynamic movement that happens with that. And he has a lot to say, so there are several hours of work to do.
Yeah, kind of bringing the acting into voice acting.
Oh yeah, well it should be acting voice rather than voice acting. Voices are all well and good, but if there's nothing going on underneath it, then you're just doing a silly voice.
Falls flat.
Everybody gets bored. Yeah, you've heard that happen before, I'm sure, in like certain shows and in games and things where it's just like you're just putting something on. You're just reading words.
You're collecting the paycheck.
Yeah, that's all you're doing. All right. Okay. But it's interesting the way that anime or that shows are done, because a lot of people will think, okay, well, now you've booked this job, you're working from start to finish, correct? You've got every day you're working on the job until you finish that show. And that's not necessarily the case, because the way that shows are done, they'll do them in chunks and volumes. So you'll do, you'll do maybe episodes 1 through 3 or 1 through 6 or 1 through 4, and you'll work on those until they're done, and then those will go from recording, they'll send them to mixing and have the engineers work on them and make sure that they sound as best as they possibly can before they go to, there are several other layers before the episodes are complete.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll work on it for maybe, depending on your character, you might only have one day in the booth where you're only working for 2 hours, or maybe you'll have several days in the booth and you'll have worked maybe 16 or something for that week, and then you finished your volume, and then you wait again until you have more.
Is that often a
So
lengthy process, or a few weeks, few months?
it depends. It definitely depends on the project. It can be, a month. It can be a week turnaround. It can be 2 weeks turnaround. It really just depends, and on the how quickly the writers can write and adapt the episodes, and the schedule of the production company itself, and the deadlines that the clients are asking for.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know.
So I'm not going to ask you to pick just one, but can you
Mhm.
pick your three personal favorite characters that you've voiced and why? Whether that be just
Oof.
because it provided like a challenge to you, or it's fun to play, or yeah,
Oh,
your three most
golly.
enjoyable.
My thrill. Golly, that's hard. um, I mean, I'll probably have to say I'll list Eiger in there. That's a default because he is my first lead character, and so I've spent quite a bit of time with him. Even though
Mhm.
he's sometimes he's a little bit stubborn, isn't he? A little bit
Yeah,
arrogant, but
just a
that's
little.
okay. Just a little arrogant. But he's learning. um, what's another one? I very much enjoyed Bianca Carlisle in Gundam Thunderbolt Bandit Flower.
That's a
She's not
mouthful.
as, yeah, it is a mouthful, isn't it? She's not as well known out there. She's not in. It's it's my favorite Gundam, and it's I know it's Stephanie Shea's favorite Gundam. I'm pretty sure, but it's not a lot of people know about Gundam Thunderbolt, and I really enjoy it. And Bianca is this really like very strong, like badass pilot. She doesn't fly a Gundam. She does fly a mech, and she's right in there with the lead EO, and she helps him because I don't want to give away the plot or anything, but
Yeah.
she's one of those really strong, intelligent, kind of like takes no shit characters that sometimes can be few and far between, for the fairer sex.
Nice. Yep.
But I really enjoyed her. And then number 3, it's my third one. I don't want to choose. Actually, I can't say that one. Because
Yeah,
that
no,
one
don't get
doesn't,
in trouble.
I can't tell you that one. Gosh, maybe Clarence. Honestly, Clarence was a lot of
Sword Art
fun.
Online.
Yeah, in Gun Gale Alternative,
Mm-hmm.
Clarence was a lot of fun because she was very flirty, and she was very funny and really cool. She was far cooler than I'll ever be. Even kind of she even kind of caught with her hand in the cookie jar a couple of times, but she just kind of kept her head and let everything be light, and knew that this was a game. And so I really enjoyed her.
Good answers.
Yeah, thanks.
So how do you personally prepare for a new role? Do you go in and want to watch the original anime or read the manga before going in, or do you just prefer to see what the character is for yourself, or have the director guide you in the process?
Um, Once again, it'll kind of depend from like character to character. Specifically, like, with Eiger, I decided to kind of stay away from learning about Beyblades too much when I went in, because after the first episode that we recorded, I found out that he didn't know very much about it, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, well, if he's just discovering a lot of this stuff, then I want to discover it with him. So I want it to all feel kind of
Yeah.
fresh.
Put
So
put you in the character's shoes a bit.
yeah, a little bit, and then say for other things that I've worked on, like, um, depending on the style of the show, or if it's a show that lives within the genre, like with Gun Gale, I I had watched some of Sword Art Online, and I watched the previous Gun Gale season of that, and just to know the style of that. Alex Von David is the director of all the Sword Art Online stuff, and he has a very specific style when it comes to direction and when it comes to acting and stuff. And I wanted to pay attention to that and his approach, so that I could walk in and kind of live within the world and kind of fit there. Um, but yeah, it just sort of depends on like who the character is and how much they know. And um, if say I always warm up for everything vocally, like I'll sing in the car. I will, and make sure that I've done vocal warm ups, so I can walk in. But really, I try to be as fresh as I can and be as open as I can when I walk into to do a new role. Oftentimes when you're working in, especially in anime or voiceover in general, you don't get a lot of information. You don't receive a lot of the information until you walk in.
Yep.
Um, so you really have to be able to be flexible and be willing to change. Um, there have been a couple of instances where I've had to walk in and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to go in this direction, and then the director will open their mouth and tell me exactly what's going on, and I'm like, oh, I'm
It's not
wrong.
like that at all.
It's not like that. You got it, and just like choose something else real quick. Um, Especially if there's like a quick timeline. I've been on certain shows where suddenly they needed to fill a spot, and they only had, just a little bit of time to do it. So they're like, hey, we need you in here really quickly. We need to finish this in just a little while, because it's going to go up like that. And so here's the premise. Here's what's happening. Get ready, get set, go. I'm like, all right, you got it, dude. Let's see what happens. So improv is a really good trainer for that. And if you must be self-conscious and feel stupid, make sure to do so after you finished work.
Nice. Good advice for any job.
It is. It's true. It's I've had those moments where it's kind of a crunch time, and you have to kind of throw caution to the wind and try not, you'll do things that feel silly, that look silly. I'm so glad that you can't take pictures of me while I'm in the booth, especially for Beyblade, because I make the strangest faces. Oh, I look so dumb. It's amazing. But yeah, but you can't sit there and think about what you look like or even what you sound like, because otherwise you're just going to get in your head and you're going to trip yourself up. So I just try to just not expect anything. I don't know who said this. There's a saying that I've always really, really loved, and it's kind of like my life's mantra, which is expect nothing, accept everything.
Nice.
Yeah, so like don't think that you can predict what's going to come up for you, but accept whatever it is that comes and roll with it as best as you can.
Similar to, I think it might have been last week, the week before, a tweet you sent out about never believing you're going to get a role, and then you get a role,
Oh yeah,
and then
absolutely.
you're like,
I,
as things get handed to you, you kind of run with it, but you never believe you're good enough, kind of thing.
yes, I want to say, especially to that tweet, because that one got a lot more traction than I expected it to. But yes, I want to say, number one, no matter what level you seem to believe that you've gotten to, or whatever level that you believe that other people are ahead of you or what have you, that feeling doesn't go away. I talked to Matt Mercer like a few weeks ago, and I was mentioning feeling a little bit like wobbly about that. He's like, "Oh yeah, that doesn't go away." And I was like, "But
Well, if you're
you're
getting it from
oh,
him, then it doesn't go
yeah."
away.
Then it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. He's about as set can be. Um, and it doesn't go away. It's just, and it doesn't really, I don't know if it doesn't necessarily get easier, but you become used to the sensation of feeling like you're falling, sort of. It's like, because you're like, oh, I don't know where my next job's gonna come from. What am I gonna do? It's gonna show up. Take a deep breath and relax. It's gonna be okay. And it's okay to feel self-conscious. It's okay to be nervous or what have you. Just know the time and place for it, and get up again, and stay strong. But to beat yourself up for feeling self-conscious, or beat yourself up for being afraid or what have you, is not going to serve you any more than the feeling of being afraid itself. So don't get mad at you. just try to be your best friend.
And run with it when you get the
Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely. Because you never know where opportunities are going to come from. I've even just this week has taught me that from certain opportunities that have come up for me that were completely out of left field. Did not expect at all. Like, I don't even know how this person got my contact information, but okay. Cool. So
Yeah, that's some
yeah,
great advice.
thank you. I hope that it helps somebody, because it's advice that I have needed and had to find all by myself. So, but we're working on it
Yeah,
slowly but surely.
you continue to work on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So starting to wind down the interview a little bit.
Mhm.
I want to know what you do in your spare time when you're not working on anime.
Oh gosh, what do I do?
What do you do to relax?
I play Dungeons and Dragons with other voice actors because I'm a nerd.
With
Yeah,
Mercer?
no, not with Matt Mercer. I've never played with him. But I have other friends. I play with Jalen Cassell, who is Okuyasu in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
Hmm.
and he also writes JoJo. He also writes Beyblade, and he does a whole bunch of other things. He's crazy intelligent. And then, he's our dungeon master, and then I play
I
with a
was going
bunch
to
of
say,
other
does he
guys.
write your campaigns?
He does, and can I tell you, he does an amazing job. Because I it's hilarious, because I'll go over to his place and we'll play, and I'm like, all right, I get to relax and unwind and let my hair down, and we get into the game, and I'm just so anxious. It's always so gripping, and it's like, oh no, I'm terrified. I thought I was supposed to relax, and now I think I'm going to die. Everything is wrong, but it's always so good. It's always so freaking good. Yeah, watch out for that, because I think he's musing about starting a Twitch stream about doing a D&D campaign. I'm like, oh God, Jalen, don't do this to me.
Keep
But
an
we'll
eye out.
see. Yeah, keep an eye out. So I do that. I also write in my spare time. I live in a fantasy world, basically. I've always loved. I love reading. I love to write. I love stories. That's why I do the things that I do. It's because it's really my favorite thing to do, which is experience characters and other worlds
I
and bring
think
them
we
to
all
life.
can relate to that a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully.
Yeah. Is it just like casual writing just for yourself, like for fun, or would you ever want to take it further and seek out publishing, or would that become too much of
um,
a job and chore then and it wouldn't be as fun?
I mean, it depends. I have written a little bit professionally. There are a few opportunities coming up for me that I can't necessarily talk about yet. Um, I did one thing I can say. I co-wrote. I'm not going to take full credit, because then I'll just get beat up. But I co-wrote with two other really great colleagues of mine a couple of years ago a live action horror film that is being produced in conjunction with Sony Pictures,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's already been shot, and it should be coming out soon. I don't know. They don't tell me things. I'll find out. But
Are you able to say the name of the project, or is it secret?
it's called One Remains.
One
It's a small independent film, and it's about a group of documentarians that are investigating mysterious deaths that happened up in a mountain. Um, and that's what I'll say about that one. But yes,
Sounds
I
interesting.
do. Yeah, it should be fun at the very least. But I do write prospectively for professional means, and then also just for my mind, just to get things down on paper.
Just switch off.
Yeah, and coloring. But that's less cool. Even less cool than Dungeons and Dragons. I'll sit down and color with colored pencils like a child.
Nice. Hey, that was all the rage a couple of years back. It came back, a resurgence of adult coloring books.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah.
I thought I was just a loser. Great.
Nope.
And
There's
I play video games as well. I just finally got the chance to start playing Breath of the Wild because I'm
Oh, nice.
lame and it takes me forever to get to try anything. But yeah, Breath of the Wild's like eating up all of my time lately.
Yeah, it's big in scope.
Yes.
It can eat up a lot of time.
Oh, it can. More than it should, but that's okay.
Do you have any other favorite video game series that you enjoy playing?
Oh, Dragon Age.
Oh, my wife loves
Ugh.
that game.
It's so much fun. I can't not. Inquisition, it has my heart.
Yep, she's
Yep.
replayed it probably the whole way through, probably 6 times now. I'll come home. She doesn't play very many games at all, my wife, but she'll redo that one over and over and over again. And
It's like a good book. You can just you can start again from the beginning, and it feels fresh again because
like a choose your own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like,
And
I'm romancing such and such this time, and I'm gonna not do this to this person this time. I'm like, okay, go ahead.
They're like, all right, whatever, floats your boat, go for it.
Yep.
Yep, me and your wife, we would be friends.
So before we head off, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on the show again and letting me and the other listeners in a bit about your life and the roles you've done and your bit of motivational speak in the middle of there.
Aw.
But before we head off,
Mm-hmm.
feel free to plug any of your shows or your upcoming things that you're allowed to talk about, or where they can find you on the internet and follow your work.
Oh, okay. Gosh. Well, once again, I'll 1,000 times talk about Beyblade Burst Turbo, which you can find on Disney XD Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Or if you don't have Disney XD, you can also find it on Hulu, or there's the Disney Now app. I think they've got it streaming there as well.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I know that Sirius the Jaeger just came out on Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, so Sirius the Jaeger's on there, and for the more mature crowd, not children at all ever, you could watch Backstreet Girls on Netflix as well.
I haven't jumped into that yet, but it's got me interested.
Oh man, that was a moment in time. That was daunting, to say the least. I play Lena, and she pops in towards the middle of the 10 episodes, and that person is a trip, for sure. But that was a very fun project and a little terrifying, to say the least, but it was good. And if you're welcome to watch, of course, Sword Art Online Gun Gale Alternative, and find me as Clarence, or I'm also in Seven Deadly Sins as Gerheed in the second season. And find me everywhere else. My Twitter handle is Laura_Stahl, Stahl, and I'm on Instagram as Laura Stahl, no underscore that time. And yeah. Oh, and I'm Unlocked. I also
was going to
stream
say,
on
do you have
Unlocked.
Unlocked? Yep.
I do have Unlocked, and I stream every Monday at 6 p.m. I missed this Monday because I was in session for a thing that I can't tell you about, but it's really freaking exciting.
Oh,
It's gonna be a really cool show. But yes, I will be on there. I like to stream on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific, or sometimes I'll jump into other people's streams when I'm feeling mischievous. I've jumped in on Kyle's stream. I've jumped in on Kellen Goff's stream, and I think I jumped in on the Sword Art parody channel stream. So you can find me on there every once in a while, playing around and being mischievous. But anyway,
great.
thank you so much again for
No,
inviting me to do this and talk
my
with y'all.
pleasure. Yeah, if you're happy to, I'd love to probably speak to you later on in the year as well. Maybe towards the end of the year, have you on again, and you can talk about all the projects that you're not able to talk about now.
That would be great.
We can
I
catch
would love
up.
to. Yeah, we can catch up on some of the cool stuff that's coming up. And I'll let you guys know as soon as I can. Yeah, just stay in touch, please.
Will do. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining me again, and that's the end of the
Thank you.
episode.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Talent Talk. Look forward to next week's episode where I'll be sitting down and talking to another voice actor from the anime industry and picking their brain. If you liked this episode, please consider subscribing on YouTube or on your podcasting platform of choice so you never miss an episode. And feel free to communicate with me on Twitter at anigame_au. That's ANIGAME_AU. And let me know who you'd love to see on the show. This has been Joel from Anigame, and I'll catch you in the next episode.